True or false? Jesus, the Son of God, was born on December 25th to the Virgin Mary, and this was prophesied hundreds of years beforehand in the Hebrew Bible. True or false? Every god under the sun was born on December 25th, all of them to virgins, and Christianity just ripped off that story.
This is the exact same paper, word for word, that you can buy for $15 on termpaper.com. It even has the same title and footnotes.
Maybe they copied my paper.
The truth? Both of these claims get things wrong, but some of them are in the ballpark. So let's kick off this Christmas by hashing out all the facts. A few of them might surprise you. In the beginning, I used to debate this stuff with Christians, and I had a Christian once tell me that I must hate this time of year. I don't. I love Christmas. I love the lights and festivities, the cozy indoor warmth and holiday cheer, good food, good vibes, good times with loved ones, Santa's fat ass roaring down my chimney, and Cousin Eddie informing us the is full. I love this time of year, but I hate bad history. So what do both Christians and atheists get wrong about this holiday? Let's begin with the Christian side of things. You'll often hear in church services that the prophet Isaiah told in advance that Christ would be miraculously born to a virgin. Chapter 7, verse 14 is rendered in the Greek, "The virgin, Parthenos, will conceive and bear a son." But the original Hebrew word Alma is somewhat ambiguous. It can mean virgin, but most often just means young woman of childbearing age. So which is it? Given the context that this would be a sign to King Ahaz that Judah would not be overtaken by enemy kings from the north, the passage is referring to contemporary events, and the son is most likely Ahaz's own, Hezekiah, or perhaps even a son of Isaiah himself. Thus, we are dealing with a natural birth from the 8th century BC, not a virgin birth some 700 years later.
It just never happened.
The same context comes to bear on Isaiah 9:6-7, "To us a child is born," which bestows the child with the titles Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Hezekiah, meaning God strengthens, is probably in view here. Although a fully human Messiah, or anointed one, he bears titles of divine royalty known throughout the ancient Near East, like the epithets of Pharaoh, including mighty, powerful, everlasting, son of Ra. Hezekiah would reign on David's throne, establishing justice and righteousness forever, just as 1 Kings 1:31 proclaims in similar hyperbolic fashion that King David would live forever. These were contemporaneous expressions of divine royalty, dealing with events from Isaiah's own day and age. Again, in their original context, these passages have nothing to do with Jesus some 700 years later. Even some Christian scholars recognize this. J.P. Holding of Tecton Ministries, a really swell guy, once said regarding the notion that Old Testament prophecy fulfillment is a good apologetic, "It actually isn't useful in the way it was at first. We need to understand, as do skeptics, Jewish exegesis of the first century. We cannot present an apologetic on this basis as we normally have, or else we are forced into a corner of explaining why the New Testament allegedly uses Old Testament passages out of context." Dr. Greg Boyd, a Christian apologist featured in Lee Strobel's The Case for Christ, admitted in a public debate with Robert M. Price that such Old Testament passages do not, in their original context, refer to Jesus. As he states on his blog, "Go back and look at the specific passages that were fulfilled when people did things to Jesus. You'll find that none of them are predictions. The reason people today often think that things fulfilled in Jesus' life had to happen is that we tend to impose an occult, crystal ball sort of interpretation on the word fulfilled. When we today think of prophecy and of things being fulfilled, we tend to think of soothsayers like Nostradamus or Jean Dixon. We then import this occultic understanding into our reading of the Bible. But this is clearly not how ancient Jews generally thought about prophecy or about things being fulfilled. The New Testament authors sometimes use these passages as a form of midrash, fleshing out their Christian narrative and theology with new interpretive uses of the Hebrew Bible. In other words, Hebrew prophets like Isaiah didn't predict anything about Jesus or his birth. Rather, New Testament authors made creative use of the Old Testament, which was not uncommon for Jews of that period.
We've got a better book with a better character. You're going to love him!
Now to cut through some common atheist errors. You'll often hear that numerous gods were born on December 25th, and that they too were virgin births. This is actually a bit of a stretch. First, concerning the December 25th date, we do know that this marked the winter solstice on the Roman imperial calendar, and that the Emperor Aurelian dedicated a temple to the sun god Sol on December 25th, 274 CE. But we have little evidence for any other divinities being associated with that approximate date. It is true, however, that the Egyptian god Horus was thought to be born at the winter solstice. This was only natural, given that he was a sun god, whose life-giving light began its ascendancy at that time of year. Known to the Greeks as Harpocrates, Plutarch tells us this: Isis, when she perceived that she was pregnant, put upon herself an amulet on the 6th day of the month Paofi, and about the time of the winter solstice she gave birth to Harpocrates, imperfect and premature. By the 4th century, Christians came to associate December 25th with the birth of Christ, celebrating the first recorded Christmas in Rome on December 25th, 336 CE. This is probably because of both the association of that date with the winter solstice in Rome and its being 9 months from the celebration of the incarnation of Christ on March 25th. March 25th, of course, coincided with the vernal equinox, just like Passover in the Jewish tradition. Either which way, the timing of these celebrations clearly stems from the veneration of solar cycles and seasonal rebirth. As for the claim that a multitude of gods were born to virgin mothers like Christ, this is overstated. The ancient world was awash in stories of miraculous and divine births, but most of them were not, strictly speaking, virgin births, since they usually entailed some kind of sexual interaction with a god. However, this is not to say that the miraculous birth of Christ is completely without parallel. Numerous heroes and divinities were the offspring of a high god and a mortal woman, which does bear a striking similarity to the Christian narrative. This includes Alexander the Great, Caesar Augustus, Romulus, Asclepius, and others. And some of these ancient tales do come awfully close to the virgin birth of Christ.
Aim, ready to squeeze. You may fire when ready.
Perseus, for instance, was produced by Zeus's taking the form of a shower of gold and entering the womb of the mortal Danae. Perseus was the son of regal Jove and her, Danae, whom he embraced in showers of gold, leaving her pregnant in her brazen cell. This is not entirely unlike the pneuma, or Spirit of God, coming upon the Virgin Mary and impregnating her with Christ. Other ancient tales come even closer. According to the Greek author Aeschylus in the 5th century BC, the maiden Io gave birth to Epaphus by the mere contact and inbreathing of Zeus. There in her by a breath of Zeus she conceived, and as the hour of birth drew nigh, by fate fulfilled unto the light he came, and Epaphus for name, born from the touch of Zeus, the child received. Epaphras is rejoiced in this work as Zeus's own begotten son. The Greek philosopher Plutarch tells us concerning Perictione's conception of Plato by the god Apollo that with a woman it is not impossible for the spirit of a god to draw near and engender certain principles of generation. Thus, to some of the ancients, a mortal woman could conceive by non-sexual encounters with the divine. Indeed, the story of Christ's miraculous birth via the Holy Spirit, the pneuma of God upon a human mother, is consistent with ancient patterns of myth-making in the Greco-Roman world. Contra the apologists, it is an obvious legend arising from the mythological milieu of the time. So yeah, despite some misconceptions, Christmas is pretty pagan. The date undeniably coincides with winter solstice celebrations going back to ancient times, and the religious significance of Christ's miraculous birth is of Greco-Judaic origin. But that doesn't make Christmas any less special, profound, or beautiful. This holiday means something to all of us, and we can celebrate it from a variety of faith traditions and perspectives.
The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're gonna hear about it.
This has been Derek Bennett with A Theologica. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future content. You can also support me on Patreon, where you'll get early access to the written content of upcoming videos, including invaluable references and sources. Any help you can provide, no matter how great or small, will go a long way toward keeping this channel going. Big thanks, by the way, to my current patrons. No matter who you are or what you believe, take joy in this holiday season. Unless you're served a plain red cup of coffee, then you're entitled to freak right the fuck out.